That's what I've been doing in Israel for many years. Not doing it so much anymore. But so when I print text, I like to do it just right. So this isn't exactly just right, but it'll be hopefully as easy as possible for people who want to understand the Tanakh a little bit and are not necessarily familiar with reading what's in the book. This will make it a little clearer because I put punctuation that should make it easier for people to read. And I'm going to ask each one of you guys to help me with the verses, okay? But I'm going to start again. I'm saying today's Shiur will be in two parts. We'll first look at how David, the son of Yishai, in Hebrew, David ben Yishai, how he came to lead Israel, how he came to be the leader, the king of Israel. And that's the first part. And then we'll look at really why. Like, what was it about this guy that was so special that made him not only the leader of his generation 3,040 years ago when he started, 3,040 years ago about, but he is the model or a model for the leaders of Israel for all the generations. Okay? So we'll look at that. I don't know if something occurred to you, but that's what we're going to look at here. We have here a story from the second book of, it's actually Shmuel 1. Sorry, correct that, please. It's the first book of Shmuel, not Shmuel 2. Shmuel 1, chapter 16. Up at the top where it says, I'm going to correct mine here too. Can I have a pencil? Thanks, just do it quick. There's no class without mistakes in writing. So there we go. Except this is copied, so this shouldn't be mistaken. What I did do, as I described a moment ago, is it's a story. I tried to boil it down to its real fundamentals. There's a couple verses that I left out because they are peripheral to the main story. So when you go to the Tanakh and look this up, you'll see there's a little bit more information in this chapter. But this is the core information. So I'm sorry, you want Shmuel? You've asked me. I know. I'm just trying to get names right. Shmuel. Let's start with the first verse, and we'll get a feel for what we're talking about. Go ahead.
It's very small.
Oh, then continue with the next one. Actually, it's not. That's that.
It's just a quote.
That's a quote. There you go.
עד מתי אתה מדבר על שאול ואני מאסתיו ממלוך לישראל מלא קרנך שמן ולך אשלחך אל ישי בית לחמי כראיתי בבניו לי מלך.
Oh, so here we have the story. So Shmuel is a prophet. Okay, we know that Shmuel Hanavi, that's his name. We call him Shmuel Hanavi. He's a prophet. So somehow, and we don't really know today because we don't really know what prophecy actually is, but somehow HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaks to him directly. He gets the message, whether it's through a malach or there's a lot of speculation about what that is. We don't really know. But we see here clearly that he is picking up a clear message from the Ribono Shel Olam, from the Master of the Universe. So what he's saying is, V'yomer Hashem el Shmuel. So Hashem says to Shmuel, Ad matai ata mitaber? How long are you going to mourn? So what are we talking about here? You remember, there's a little background. Shmuel was part of the process. He was asked to make Shaul the king, and then Shaul made some big mistakes. Do you know the story? He was supposed to kill Amalek, kill the entire nation of Amalek. That's what his instructions were, and he didn't do it in the end. And so eventually, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, this is not for us. We need someone else. Now, one could say that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu changed his mind when he caused Shaul to be king. Did he change his mind? And the answer is no. There's a process here. Shaul HaMelech was the first steps in having a king for the combined nation of Israel. After all the years that they had come out of Egypt hundreds of years before, and they came to the land of Israel, and we had the judges. Are you guys familiar with this story a little bit? We had the judges. They were the ones who ruled, but they were ad hoc leaders. They weren't always there. It wasn't a government. It was whenever they needed a particular leader, they the judge would be tapped to do it. But the nation wanted a king. And God said, well, I think that's the right thing to do. So let's start with Shaul. Shaul was, apparently he was tall, he was a warrior, he looked the part perfectly. So that's one of the reasons that he was chosen to be king. But he did not follow the instructions of Hashem that Hashem gave through Shmuel Hanavi. Shmuel Hanavi told him what to do, and he didn't do it. So eventually, God said, we're going to have to look for someone else. And that's what we're looking at right here. So the first thing he says to Shmuel Hanavi is, how long are you going to mourn that we don't have a king anymore? I'm going to bring you a new one. He says, V'ani masativ mimloch al Yisrael. I was tired of him ruling. I got sick of him ruling over Israel. So let's not mourn. Let's get together. Let's do what we need to do. Malei konecha shemen. What does that mean, guys? Fill your horn with oil. For what purpose? To anoint a new king. Hashem is telling Shmuel Hanavi, I'm going to bring you to someone. I'm going to bring you his replacement. Okay? Eshlachecha el Yishai Beit Lachmi. I'm going to send you to Yishai in the community of Beit Lechem, which we know is not far from here. It's down the street, basically, from where we are today in Yerushalayim. So Beit Lechem was a community of Jews from which tribe? Yehuda. From Yehuda. It was a community. It was in the tribal allotment of Yehuda, and Yishai, we don't have the background here, but Yishai was known as a tzaddik, as one of the most important tzaddikim that there were. So Hashem says to Shmuel, I'm going to send you there, and you're going to find me a king. He says, Ki raiti bivanav li melech. I have seen amongst his sons a king. Okay? That's the story. Next verse. Who wants to read it? Go for it.
וירא שמואל את אשר דיבר השם ויבוא בית לחם ויחרדו זקני העיר לקראתו.
Okay, let's stop there. So there's a little background that I'll just give you. So Shmuel, of course, does what is told, and he makes his way to Beit Lechem, and the elders of the city get very nervous. What are they nervous about? They don't know what he wants. Is it about a war? What is this? What does the prophet want from us? That's what the elders are kind of saying. But in fact, Shmuel doesn't really tell them what he's there for. The next verse says, Vayomer, that's one of the leaders of the community, says to Shmuel,
Shalom aboecha.
By the way, something very interesting here. Guys, there are a few places in the Tanakh where we see spoken Hebrew of their time. One is in the book of Ruth. We see the exchange that Boaz has with his workers. And here we see that the greeting, like we say, Manishma. Today we say Manishma. But at that time, Shalom Boecha. Shalom Boecha. May your coming be in peace. I think we should use this phrase sometimes. It's very beautiful. Shalom Boecha. May your arrival be in peace. And so, what does Shmuel answer? You want to read the verse? The Yomer.
My Hebrew is not good for.
Oh, all right.
Shusha?
Whoever wants to, go ahead.
ויאמר שלום לזבוח לאדוני באיתי. התקדשו ובאתם איתי בזבח.
בזבח,
ויקדש את ישי ואת בניו ויקרא להם לזבח.
So Shmuel says, hey, chill out. I'm coming to the city. I want to make a korban with you. By the way, was there a Beit HaMikdash where we could do korbanot at this time?
No.
There was no Beit HaMikdash. There was no central place for doing korbanot. So people in different communities would do korbanot. So it's not uncommon for someone to, like a prophet like Shmuel, to request to do korbanot with a community. So that's what he told him he was doing, right? He said, Titkadshu uvatem iti b'zevach. First of all, make yourself holy. What does that mean?
Wash.
But particularly what kind of washing?
Mikveh.
Mikveh. This phrase titkadshu means immerse yourselves in a mikveh, get yourself ready, and we're going to have this tekes. We're going to have this event of a korban. Okay? Titkadshu uvatem iti, come with me. Bazavach. Zavach is lashon zevach, which is to offer or sacrifice. Okay? Then he says, then reminds, or actually tells Shmuel to the elders of the community, V'kadesh et Yishai ve'et banav. Why don't you bring along Yishai and his sons with you to this event that I'm doing, okay? V'yikra lahem lazevach, and let them join us, which is a nice thing. He said, let's have the important people in the town do this korban, do this offering. Vayihi bevoam v'yar et Eliyav. So wait a minute, this is what happened. So the elders clearly did what Shmuel said. By the way, Shmuel himself was he was the last of the judges. So the judge was coming to town. The head of it's like the Rosh HaMemshalah was coming to town. So the elders, that's why the elders were nervous. They didn't know what he wanted. So they said, oh, no problem. So we'll bring Yishai and his sons to this offering. Okay? So who's going to read the next pasuk?
Yeah, already. Which one? Vayomer?
Vayehi.
Vayehi
Bevoam.
Vayere et Eliyav.
Right.
Vayomer ach neged Hashem mishiko.
Oh, so what's going on here? Okay, I have to fill in the details here because the Tanakh is sometimes like the headings of the story. We have the oral tradition fills in the details, but we can do the details also today, which is a remarkable thing to think about. Unlike our ancestors of 200 years ago, we speak this language, guys. In other words, this language, this account is written in our language, just to one degree or another. All of us, I started without knowing Hebrew also when I came to Israel. But the more you learn, the more you look at the text, you understand it in depth. And that's something that our forefathers really couldn't do because they never really spoke the language. They learned it as a written language to study, but to speak it in daily commerce, that's one of the privileges of being here now. Okay? So we look at this and it says here, Vayhi bevoam vayar et Yeleb. So it's talking about Shmuel now. And here, they came. Who's he talking about, they, at this point?
The kids of Yishai.
That's right, the kids of Yishai, and Yishai himself obviously is there. He says them, V'yar et Eliyav. And Shmuel looks up and he sees the oldest son of the older brother of David HaMelech. Eliyav was his name. Again, these were the guys who we see later on fighting against Goliath, right? So he was a big tough guy, tall and a soldier. He says, and so says Shmuel to himself. He doesn't say it out loud. Ach neged Adonai Meshicho. He says, oh, here's the Mashiach that I'm supposed to pour the oil on, right? That's what he says to himself. Look at this guy. He's, it's like they used to say about Warren Harding. I don't know if you know that name from American history. Warren Harding was he was a president of America in the 1920s. And I've heard this said, the most important thing about him was that he looked like a president. That's why they made him the president. He looked like he should be president. Look at a picture of him sometime. He looks like, the model of a president. That's what Shmuel is saying here. Oh, here's the Mashiach, right? So the next verse, anyone else want to read? You want to read it?
I'm not so good.
Even slow. We'll help you.
Where are we holding?
We are at the next paragraph, the second big paragraph. Vayomer
Vayomer Hashem al Shmuel al Tebat al
Marehu
Marehu va'al Gavua
Komato
Kumato ki
Miastihu.
miastihu ki lo asher Yerea ha'adam ki ha'adam Yerea
Einaim
la'enaim va'Hashem
Yireh
Yireh
Lelevav. Listen, guys, this is pretty important stuff because we're looking in the middle of the story. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is talking to Shmuel. This is HaKadosh Baruch Hu talking to him. So look at what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him. He says, "Don't look at the way he looks and at his height, the height of his, how tall he is, because I'm not interested in him. Ki ma'astihu. I'm not No, that's not it. That's not what I'm looking for, he says. And he explains himself. HaKadosh Baruch Hu explains himself. Ki lo asher yireh hadam. No, he says, I don't look at things. I hope that doesn't bother things. I don't look at things the way people do. Says Hashem, I'm Hashem. I look at things differently. And then he explains himself. Ki ha'adam yireh le'einayim. A person looks into someone's eyes and sees, like at eye level, what's going on. Vadonai yireh lalevav. What's levav, gentlemen?
Heart.
The heart. In other words, Kadosh Baruch Hu is telling us, he's telling us really what we should be looking for in our generation right now, because we are lacking a leader in this country who is lacking one major component that in this story we'll see is not lacking, and that component is emunah. Kadosh Baruch Hu is looking for the heart, and in Aramaic in the Gemara it says, I think liba bae, that is to say, the heart he's asking for. Kadosh Baruch Hu is asking for the heart. We're okay. We're fine. We're fine. Baruch Hashem. Thank you.
Are you treating the Rav properly, gentlemen?
Oh, they're wonderful.
Oh,
a glass of water would be wonderful. Thank you so much. So, gentlemen, Kadosh Baruch Hu is saying, hey, don't confuse me with the way he looks. I'm not interested. I'm looking at his heart. And that's a lesson for us today, because we're also looking for a leader, aren't we? Because we are looking today in Israel, it's a barren landscape. There's no leader in sight. What, does anyone in the political leadership, can they do what needs to be done now?
If they have the support.
I don't think so, because they don't need support. They need from within Yirat Shamayim. And that doesn't really exist. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's look at, let's see, hold on. Okay, Vayikra Yishai el Avinadav. So Shmuel says, well, we don't see it here, but Shmuel says, well, what about another son? Maybe it's the other son. He doesn't know which son it is, right? So Yishai is standing there and he says, come here, my second son, because he has like 7 sons, okay? So he calls his second son Avinadav. V'yavirehu lifnei Shmuel, and he passes him before Shmuel Hanavi. He says, here he is. Isn't this guy the right guy? Thank you so much. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nihiyeh b'dvaro. So he says, all right, this is the second candidate, right? So what does Hashem say? V'yomer gam bazeh lo vachar Adonai. Now I'm going to give you a little secret, which I don't know if it's true or not, and I haven't really investigated it deeply. But we understand that a prophet of the nature of Shmuel, he traveled with someone. He came with people with him. He came with the tools of his trade. What do you think he had with him in order to prophesize in such a way? Do you know? Can anyone guess? Bingo. We think, I've heard this. I can't confirm it yet. We'll have to talk to people much wiser than me. But I believe that he was walking with a Kohen, and the Kohen had with him, it might have been the Kohen Gadol, I don't know, but the Kohen had with him the vest that we call the ephod, and on the vest was the Urim v'Tumim. Have you heard this term? The Urim v'Tumim, which lights and simplicity is what it's translated as. And by the way, where do we see this in American culture? Does anyone know?
It's a university.
Which one?
I don't know, North America.
Yale.
You guys are on the ball. Yale University, gentlemen. Yale freaking anti-Semitic university has on its logo Urim v'Tumim. They don't even know what it is. They translate it as light and simplicity. We're talking about Urim v'Tumim, which is the method that Am Yisrael uses to connect with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Kohen Gadol. And how did it work? Does anyone know? There's different. We don't know really because we haven't seen it in thousands of years. Do you know how it would work? Yes, he's going like that, like a keyboard almost. In other words, the lights, the stones. There were 12 stones representing each tribe, and those 12 stones could be understood, I think, as I've heard, as letters. So you would ask a question and beep, 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 it would light up with letters. Kind of hard to believe, but that's something to put like in your pocket to remember. So you can see that that's what's going on here, because Shmuel HaNavi is saying, no, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is this the one? Nope, that's not the one. Beep, 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 beep. Nope. Again, this is conjecture. I don't know if it's true, but we do understand that that's how the Urim V'Tumim worked. Okay? So, what's going on here? Shmuel's getting a little irritated. What's going on? So he says, V'yomer Shmuel el Yishai, tamu hane'arim?
We skipped one.
Yeah, I skipped a line. Lo v'char, did I skip one?
V'yaver.
V'yaver Yishai, slicha, thank you. V'yaver Yishai shivat banav lifnei Shmuel. He, one by one, he passed his sons. Again, these guys were amazing characters. I mean, they really looked like they could be the king. And he passed them by Shmuel. V'yomer Shmuel el Yishai, lo v'char Adonai b'eile. Wouldn't you get a little confused? If I was Shmuel, man, I would be really saying, what is going on here? HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent him explicitly and said, I see a king amongst the sons of Yishai, and he went through all of the sons of Yishai and kept saying, no. Next. Right, exactly. V'yomer Shmuel el Yishai, tamu ne'arim. So Shmuel turns to Yishai and says, wait a minute, is that all your sons? What's going on here? So you can almost visualize this. Watching Yishai looking at his sons lined up and kind of saying, well, he says, V'yomer, Od Shar HaKatan. There's one little one still left. Shar HaKatan. One little relative still left. V'hine Ro'eh Batzon. He's not with us right now because he's out in the woods with his flute and his lyre, right? And his harp. He's in the woods wandering around. Like, this guy is, forget about it. We didn't even bring him here because he's not, it's clear that this wouldn't be the right kind of guy that you're looking for. You follow?
Yeah.
Okay? So what happens? V'yomer Shmuel el Yishai, shilcha kachenu, ki lo nasov ad bopo. Says Shmuel. He gets the point. Shmuel he's a Navi. He gets the point. He says, send him here right now, because we're not going until we see this guy, because that's the last one. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to him, this is where I'm going to get the king from, right? Vayishlach vayivyehu. So Yishai said, okay, I mean, we have to call him. We'll have to send someone to go get him. He's out in the woods, out there in the fields near Bethlehem. If you drive by going to Hebron anytime, it's all filled with houses these days, but not long ago it was empty fields. And that's where he was. It was either fields or woods where David was. A roetzon is a shepherd, right? So he was out with the flocks, sitting in the woods or in the fields. Vayishlach vayavehu. So they sent for him and they brought him. Vehu, akshav, we get a description of what David HaMelech looked like as a young man. You want to read that?
Yeah. Okay.
Sure, because someone said he didn't read very well, and you read very well.
Yeah.
Can you read?
I can read.
Please do. The verse is Vayishlach vayavehu. It's the last verse in the second paragraph.
Vayishlach vayiku a kol la nisav of ad bo'av pa.
Wait. Let's make sure we're in the right place.
Next one.
Oh, that's one.
Vayishlach vayavehu. It's at the second to the last line in the second paragraph. Do you see it at the end? Vayishlach.
Next sentence. Yeah.
Next sentence.
Oh. This one?
Yep.
Vayishlach vayahu v'ya adamni.
Right.
Yepta.
Yefei.
Bang. Arnem v'tov rang.
Good. So what it says is, Vayishlach Vayivayehu. So Yishai sent for him, and they brought him to Shmuel. And now it describes him. V'hu admoni. Admon is red. And it might mean he was ruddy. We use it, there's a word in English, ruddy, which is like red complexion. Or it might mean he was a redhead, a gingy, we don't know. Not clear. Okay? Admoni. Im yifei einayim, he had beautiful eyes. V'tov ro'i. And he was good looking, I guess you could say. He looked good. Interesting. Did it say anything about how tall he was? Does it say anything about, and he was a master, big muscled guy or something like that? No, because that's not what we saw earlier. That's not what HaKadosh Baruch Hu was looking for. Okay? So who's going to read the conclusion? The third chapter? The third paragraph? Can be clearer than that? Look at the language, guys. We use that term today. Zeu, 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 zeh, we say. This is it. Zeu. Right? You're familiar with that term in Hebrew, even if you don't know Hebrew so well. Zeu. Yalla. Someone says to you, your kids say, Abba, I want to go outside. It's, and you say, no. I said, after 7 o'clock, you can't go outside. Zeu. And they have to take it. So that's what it means here. V'yomer Adonai, and Hashem said, Kum, get up. Mishachehu. What's mishachehu?
To anoint.
To anoint. Pour that oil on his head. Ki zehu. Because that's what I was looking for. And you can imagine Yishai and his sons, his other brothers, looking like, what is this guy? This guy is crazy. He's a musician. He's got his head in the clouds all day long. This guy is going to be the king? But remember what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said. He says, I don't look at the person, I look in his heart. And apparently, there were qualities in David, the son of Yishai, that are necessary for the generation-long leader of the nation of Israel. I think that's a big lesson for us today, but we'll deal with that a little later. So then, someone wants to read this, the next verse.
ויקח שמואל את קרן השמן וימשך אותו בקרב אחיו ותצלח רוח אדוני אל דוד מהיום ההוא ומעלה ויקם שמואל וילך הרמתה.
So here we have the summary. V'yomer Adonai. Oh, I'm sorry. Here. V'titzlach. Wait a minute. I jumped again. Vayikach Shmuel et keren Hashem, and he took the horn of oil. V'yimshach oto bekerev echav. Like it really means to the incredible bewilderment of his brothers. Like, what's going on here? We thought it was Eliav, who's going to be the leader of the family, and here's this, and there's a lot of tradition about who David HaMelech was. He looked different than his son. He looked different than his other brothers, as you can see it here. We'll leave that alone for now. V'titzlach ruach Adonai el David. So the spirit of Hashem was successful in David. That's an interesting statement. Mehayom hahu, from that day onward. From the day that he was Mashach, but he didn't actually become king right away, as we know. This was all before the story of Shaul and stuff like that. Vayakom Shmuel v'yelech haramata. Shmuel finished what he had to do, and he went home. So that's the story of that. Now we're going to jump in without even wasting any time, unless there's some questions. Does this make sense? This story? Yes, please.
Go back to the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And Hashem is asking Shmuel,
Yep.
how long are you going to mourn for Shaul?
Right.
But when you get to the end, he's just now chosen David.
So what's? I don't understand your question.
So, Shaul is still alive.
He didn't mean mourn his death. He meant mourn his failure. Right?
The whole thing with that was that.
Yeah, he hadn't died. He's not mourning for him. He's mourning for the fact that he messed up. It's not mourning. That's it's a very good question, but that's my understanding of it. He's not mourning his death. He hasn't died yet. What has happened is he's fallen from grace, so to speak. That's what he's mourning. Make sense, guys? All right, now we're going to jump right in with both feet into the words of this red-haired or red-skinned guy, whoever he was. We're going to look if I can describe, in my opinion, this is one of the highest points of all of Tehillim that we're going to look at. And we'll start by looking at the first part of verse Kuf Yud Tet, chapter Kuf Yud Tet. You familiar with it at all? Does he know what that means?
That's quite far.
Well, it's not chronological. This was set up in different ways.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, but like Tehillim 7 is like it's like when he's doing this show and stuff. Like
Right. But there were those who say Kuf Yud Tet. Do you find it, guys? What is unusual and unique about chapter? It's number one. It's the biggest chapter. Okay, but why is it the biggest chapter? You know why? Because it's composed in a very special way. And when I read it, I can't read the whole chapter at once. It's too much, too big. Why? Because it's broken down into every letter of the alphabet, 8 verses for each letter. Aleph, 8 verses. Bet, 8 verses. Gimel, 8 verses. All the way to Taf. That's the way it's set up. That's what they say. There are those who say, I don't know if it's true. I can't corroborate it, but there are those who say that the bulk of Tehillim were written before he was king. And this one, in fact, there's a point in Kuf Yud Tet, he says, Tza'ir ani. He says, I'm young. So now Tza'ir could mean small, but it could mean young. He was writing these things when he was a young. These are the songs he wrote in the woods and in the fields before he became king. That's what I understand this to be, Kuf Yud Tet. Exactly. By the way, keep in mind, gentlemen, that these things are songs. Now, we sing them in different ways, but you know what? Maybe if we have a moment, I'm going to play you the way that the Temanim sing them. The way the Temanim sing, apparently they have an ear for what was sung in Beit HaMikdash. And they sing it as a real, genuine, not like our songs from Europe. We took the songs that people had and we applied them. Same thing with in the Arab world. They took Arab songs, but here the Temanim apparently have their hands around the original tunes, which is pretty. That's one of the claims. But let's look at Kuf Yud Tet. If we're going to look at Kuf Yud Tet, why not go to the resounding crescendo? Where would that be? The end. Take a look at this, guys. Otaf. Just a sec. I'll get to it too. And we have to read these. Oh, here it is. I got it. Yeah. Got it?
172.
You know, you can see it's not really even set up. It would be nicer if it was printed. If I had the time, I was going to print this guy for you guys in the way that I would like to see it printed, but I didn't have time. But I would put each letter Taf lined up next to the other one. But they didn't do that in most places. They didn't do that. You see it? It's at the end of Kuf Yud Tet, just before Kuf Kaf. Just before chapter Kuf Kaf. Got it, guys? Everybody there? What's the first word? Tikrav. The first word is Tikrav. Make sure that everyone's with us.
yeah, I know at the end.
It's at the end of this parak. But it's really this is a parak itself. That's how that's how I've come to look at it. Yisrael, yesh lecha? You got it? Okay. We got it, guys?
Yeah.
It's verse, if it'll help you, it's verse 169. That should help. You're right, I didn't even think of that. Okay, so what do we got here? Let's look at it for a sec. Let's dig in for a moment. Tikrav rinati lefanecha Adonai, kidvarecha havivneni. It's one sentence, one statement. Look how many, it's only a few words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words. What is it saying? And the translations that I've come across, for some reason they don't. I think because they're not based, the translations, a lot of translations that we have are based on thinking how it should be and not what is it in Hebrew today? What does this mean to us in today?
The standard for 4 centuries was the King James Bible.
So this is a problem because that uses English from the 17th century, okay? And that means that you're already off base. But today we speak the language, guys. And this, of course, is, I mean, I've said it to you when I've been with you many times. Your goal here, yes, we're in the English program, and that's fine. But your goal is to learn to live, sleep, drink, eat, and breathe in Hebrew. Because that's the way you understand everything here. There are people who live in Israel and never learn Hebrew. No, it's not. I mean, I say better that than living in America. Let them come. But if you have the ability, if you're young and you have interest, you can learn the language, and all of a sudden, the whole country opens up to you. You hear what's on the radio. You hear what's going on. The only reason I know, well, maybe not the only reason, but I was a madrich in the first Gulf War in 1991. And I had 10 students from high school, and the war was approaching. And no one was telling me what to do. Like the people above me, they were Israelis in this yeshiva. They didn't really care. So all of a sudden, I found out that I had to listen to the radio every hour because we didn't know when things were going to start. And guess what? I understood the radio. I didn't before. Necessity is the mother of invention. And I'm telling you, make it a necessity for you guys. You already speak Hebrew, right? So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's critical. So we're going to look at this now. Tikra v'rinati lefanecha Adonai. What is tikra? What's
Bring close.
Bring close. By the way, the translations, I don't know if you have it in English also, but they don't say it that way. Bring close my song, my singing. Rinati, rina is singing. Before you. In other words, take my singing that I'm going to sing to you. Remember, these are songs. Before you, Hashem. And, it's like saying and, Kidvarecha havineni. Make me understand as you have said, in your words, like your words. That's quite a concept, gentlemen. You don't get that anywhere else. And the most boiled down concept is here in this chapter. Because he takes all those alphabets, right, the alphabetical letters, and crunches down the psukim to 5 or 6 letters. It's all the same structure. That's why it's so special.
Havineni is like a future tense?
Yes.
Okay.
Havineni. Make me understand. Havin, Lashon, to understand. Okay? Kidvarecha, like your words.
Havineni kidvarecha would be better grammatically, no?
Yeah, except that this is a song. So you can say, Kidvarecha Havineni. It's a song. By the way, guys, we're going to hear it as a song. Probably as close to it. It's not going to be Temini. I'll play it for you and you'll understand in a few minutes. It's sung as David HaMelech might have sung it himself. I don't know. Maybe the tune is different. I don't know. But you'll hear how the words are sung and you understand that this is all song. Okay? Next verse. Tavo techinati lefanecha. May my techina, my begging. Techina is like begging. Right? Please. Right. Please. May come before you. It's the same structure. Look at that. Tikrav vinati lefanecha. Tavo techinati lefanecha. It's a rhymes. Guys, this is rhyming kind of stuff. Okay? It's like people don't even realize. It's amazing. Ki imratecha. Again, we said ki dvarecha. We said upstairs dvarecha like your davar is talking. It's a word. Imratecha are words also. Right? We have in English, we use the same word for dvarecha ve'imratecha. Dvarecha is more like speaking.
So many things
Dvar is also thing.
Many things.
But when he's talking about words, it also means words or thoughts. So in other words, it says, Tavon techinati lefanecha, ki imratecha hatzileni. Above we said, ki divrachecha havineni. Make me understand according to your words. And then this one says, ki imratecha hatzileni. Save me. Like a matzil, guys, in today's Hebrew is a lifeguard, someone who saves lives. So Hatzileni, David HaMelech is saying, save me according to your words. Pretty heavy concept. Let's look at the next verse. This is a word that's very unfamiliar to me. Yeah, go ahead.
Like if you talk about the Torah, it's also davar.
That's right. That's right, because it's
Understand
words.
the Torah, and
Imratecha,
it's like a speaking.
Saying. Right.
Yeah.
That's different. But in essence, they're talking about the same concept.
Yeah, giving over stuff.
Giving over ideas. Some like you're saying here, Dvarecha might be more related to written word, and Amaratecha. But when you're talking about Hashem, Kim Imratecha, it's also the written word, because that's what Hashem is saying.
But everything, this is the word. I mean, everything in the world is.
That's also true. That's also true.
I mean, it's like you save me by your word. It's like you give the word and I'll be saved. Like you send the word into action. And
that's right. That's how to understand what David HaMelech is telling us. That's how to understand it. Guys, are you with me? Is this making sense? Let's look at the third verse. Taba'ana svatai tehila. In this case, taba'ana, it's a very unusual form that I've never seen it before, except here. But it means nabia. Yeah, nabia. Also to express. Right, to express. May my lips express praise. Tehillah is praise. Guys, we're translating. But translating is only approximation. What we need to say, and this is the whole point I want to make when dealing with this stuff, we need to get to the level where we read the words and the words talk to us without translation. Let those words talk to us as they are, because they're saying something by themselves. Translation is an approximation for our understanding because we speak a different language. Like you just said, we should let those words mean themselves. That's what we're trying to get to. And the only way to do that, by the way, is to read it over many times. That's why you see old ladies at the Western Wall reading Tehillim, because that's how it works. Okay? So Tiba'ana sfatai tehila ki tilamdeni chukecha, because you will teach me your laws. Chukecha. Your chok is also not just, it depends upon what the context, but chok is also the things that don't necessarily make sense. Right? Like tefillin. Like, why do you need tefillin? Because it's a chok.
There is an explanation for tefillin. There isn't an explanation for paraduma.
There are explanations, but they're not like don't murder. Don't murder is obvious because it's necessary for society. But why must we be wearing tefillin? That's a chok. Why do we have paraduma? Why do we do that?
Tefillin, there is also an explanation in the Torah.
Of course.
If your child asks you, then you say it's
a
to say
it's a command. But
to say that you went out of Egypt.
Right. That's true. But you have to have an explanation. I mean, putting on tefillin is not something that you need like to eat. So there are different words in, and here David HaMelech uses like 10 different words for commandments. Like this one, like that one. You'll see as you go through these particular verses, because they're different shades of meaning in Hebrew for different kinds of commandments. So a chok, like I'm saying, is something that's less apparently logical. Okay? So let's look at the next verse. We could do this, for like hours. Let's look at the next verse. Tehi yadecha le'azrein. Let your hand be. No, did I skip? Sorry, I skipped. That wouldn't be the first time. Ta'an lishoni imratecha. Ta'an, in this case, is answer, but it also means to express with energy. You see in the Tanakh. Yeah. Yeah. As in Anita. Think about it. Never even thought about that, did you? Lita'on. No, wait. Lita'on might be with a tet. Ta'ana. Ta'ana is with a tet. But Anita, you see often the word Anita, it means answered, but it also means exclaims. It also means exclaims. Okay? Ta'ana is it with a tet. But that means that there's some relation there anyway, because they're close, but not exactly. Okay? So let my tongue answer your words. Again, imratecha, or you say your sayings.
Yeah.
Your sayings. Ki kol mitzvotecha tzedek. because all your commandments are righteous. Or you might say righteousness. Shem etzem, right? All your commandments are righteous. So this is, in other words, David HaMelech is expressing the core beliefs of our faith in these boiled down words. Next verse, the fifth one. Tihi yadecha le'ozreni. Let your hand be to help me.
For my help.
Or for my help, right. Yeah, for my help. That's maybe more accurate. Ki pikudecha v'charti. Because what you have commanded, would you call them commandments? How would you translate pikudecha? It's not mitzvah. It's a little pikudecha. Lifkod is to command someone to do something.
To order.
Or orders. You could say orders, right? You could say orders. Because your orders I chose. Okay? So you're getting the feeling of the rhythm of this? So who's going to read the last two verses? No, that's three. Want to read?
תאהבתי לישועתך אדוני ותורתך
Sha'ashuai.
שעשועי.
What does this word mean, guys? We'll look at it in a second. Ta'avti lishuatecha. Ta'av is te'avon.
Okay.
See the word te'avon there? When we say someone's eating, you say the te'avon. The te'avon. So it means appetiteness. So in other words, ta'avti, I had appetite for your salvation. I don't know how to translate lishuatecha. Salvation. It sounds kind of funny, but I desired, I was hungry for your salvation, Adonai, v'toratecha, and your Torah shashua. What?
The shasheh.
What does that mean?
The shasheh is to entertain.
To entertain. But think of where it's also coming from. Yeshua. It's also salvation. See it? It's the same root.
Double.
The same root, but it's doubled. Right? So in other words, yes, today in modern Hebrew, the shashea, your children, is you entertain them. You give them something to do so that they don't bug you. Gan shashuim. There's a playground. Shashuim. So it means, and it can even mean my plaything. But it also comes, I saw it, I looked it up, and I saw that they were talking about Yeshua also. So it's isn't that wild? In other words, David HaMelech had quite a vocabulary because he was a poet. And so this is a word that has double meaning. And so it means both things at the same time. Shmuel, you want to read the next verse? Techi. Teheleleka. Ya'azruni. What does it mean?
Like bring my soul to life.
Yes. Liven my soul, you might say. I mean, it doesn't really mean it that way, but right?
And I will praise you.
Exactly. Your judgments, maybe you could say. Your laws. There's different ways of translating all this stuff because they're fine differences. Mishpatecha,
they will help me.
They'll help me. They'll assist me. We use Ezra as assist in modern Hebrew, but it's the same thing. It's to help. Okay? Now here comes the kicker, guys. And he finishes this chapter with this verse. Your name is? Amikam. Amikam, can you read this verse?
The last one?
Yeah.
Ta'iti
Kaseh.
Oved Bakesh Abdecha Ki Mitzvotecha Lo
Shachachti. Yafeh. In other words, like with a tet, it's ta'iti, like I made a mistake. But with a taf, it's I strayed. Yes, to'eh b'derech. But it's very similar to with a tet. So if it's similar to a tet, it means that there's something going on there. That's how we understand Hebrew anyway. And that when things, even the letters change a little bit. Yes, right. So ta'iti. I always thought this meant Tahiti, I made a mistake, like a lost sheep. But it's not made a mistake. A sheep doesn't make mistakes. What does it do? It gets lost. It strays. It strays from the... Remember, because he's this guy who's writing these words was a shepherd. That's what he did for a living, so to speak. Right? So he's describing what he saw. I have strayed from all that you've asked me to do, just like a sheep of mine that went away. So he says, Bakesh Abdecha. What is Bakesh in this case? It's Shalom Aleichem. Bakesh. Ask. Demand. God, I don't know what else. Like ask for. So he's saying, ask for, which is saying what? I'm lost. Bring me back. Bring me back to the fold. Do you ever hear? Who else talks like that? Is that how President Eisenhower would talk? Is that how Genghis Khan would discuss his ruling of the people? No. David HaMelech is saying, return me to the flock, because I've strayed. And then he says, why? What's his reason? Last part, guys.
I didn't forget your mitzvah.
Because I've done the best I can to be true to your mitzvahs. But he said, I strayed, meaning something very, very important about our leaders, which the world doesn't understand, particularly the Christian world. Our leaders are human beings. Our leaders make mistakes. Our leaders are not perfect. Our leaders are not infallible. In Christianity and in Islam, their leadership are infallible. Everything they do is perfect. That's what they say. That's baloney. That's hogwash. Okay? That's not real. For us, our leaders are imperfect, but they have to take responsibility. As we saw with Yehuda and Tamar, right? As we saw with Yehuda later, he admitted and changed his mind. Instead of blowing off his brother, he decided, I'm going to sit as a slave in place of my brother. And that's when Yosef understood, all right, now I can admit who I am. These are the stories that we saw in the past couple of weeks. So we're learning the essentials of leadership. Now I'm going to play you a song. You can stop that.